first time I heard Ed play, I was like, wow, no one plays guitar like this guy. This is unique. It's different. You know, he created his own style. No one else played like that, period. Now, those photos there are from the 2 shows I did, the first 2 shows I ever really shot Van Halen live. So the last 2 shows on the end of the 78 tour was San Diego's Sports Arena, and then they played the Long Beach Arena. And they didn't have the whole arena because Van Halen wasn't that big. You know, you could cordon off the arena, whether it's 16,000 or 1,600. Well, that image you're holding up there, that was shot in Oakland in 78. And it was a day on the green, Bill Graham. And I mean, you can't see how big it is. There were probably 50,000 people there that day. And they just, I mean, back in the early days, Van Halen just annihilated all the other bands. But when Van Halen hit the stage and they were on 10, they were on 10,000, okay? You know, no one could touch them. You know, I mean, Dave was one of the best showmen that ever lived up till, you know, working with Dave and meeting him. To me, Mick Jagger was the greatest front man in the music industry. You know, in that shot, I'm on stage left by Ed, and he just danced over and looked at me like, this is wonderful. That's another shot from the same show. I mean, just look at the energy. You can see those stands are just jam-packed with people, you know, like sardines in a sardine can. It was, you know, and Dave's doing his little dance there, and Ed's down on his knees. Alex is on the drum riser. Is just, you know, that was an amazing day. Okay, so that sequence there is what I call the long-lost Ed photos, okay? So here it is. I shot those in 78. I shot that session for Van Halen too. Well, 40, 45 years later at my studio, I have lots of shots of Michael, lots of shots of Dave, and hardly any shots of Ed, maybe 4 or 5 shots. And I was always like, what happened to the Ed shots? So my friend Michael Strider calls me up, and he's like, hey, Zloz, are these your photos? And I'm like, what? And he sends me a link. So Noel Monk, the manager, was selling all his Van Halen paraphernalia, and he was having an auction. So I go look at the link he sends. I'm like, oh my God, Noel's got like 50 photos of Ed. And I could tell it was the film actually. And I'm like, wait a second. I always thought Warner Brothers had those photos and I could never get them back. Or I didn't know who had them, honestly, but I knew I didn't have them. So I called Noel. I'm like, Monk, you know, you're selling this shit. You know, I need it back. It's mine. Okay, Neil, no big deal. For 40 years, I had 5 shots from that shoot. Those are the first time in probably 50 years that 8/10 of those photos of Ed from that shoot have ever been seen. Yeah, those photos there are from the world-famous Sunset Sound, where I think they recorded most of their records, if I'm not mistaken. But they called me up. They wanted me to do a shoot there. I got into the studio. The place was a pigsty. Schlitz malt liquor bottles everywhere. McDonald's food wrappers everywhere. You know, we did individuals and we did group shots. And, you know, of course, Ed, you know, he had the famous bomb there, which was, I guess, an old bomb that an airplane, you know, would drop. And he used to have all his electronics hidden in there, which everybody thought was the coolest thing in the world. And I think you could see his pedal board down there and, you know, so on and so forth. You could see in the photos there that Dave's got the no shoe. I think he's got a white Capezio on one foot and the other foot is all bandaged up still from when he was jumping off doing Van Halen 2 photo shoot. Well, in 78, I mean, the only other, I mean, there was Randy Rhoads, who was a friend of mine, and people said there was a big rivalry between Randy and Ed, but I never heard Ed talk about Randy, and I never really heard Randy talk about Ed. Ed was really a shy guy when I first met him. He was quiet, and Eddie was always had a guitar with him, and he makes it look so effortless. No one sounded like him. I don't think people can manipulate their fingers like him. I mean, I don't know how he did it. Yeah, he was just, I mean, he was an innovator. What can you say about Ed? I mean, he's one of the greatest guitarists that ever lived.